For several weeks, mass protests against Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu have made international headlines. Tens of thousands have gathered in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv and other cities across the country. Fed up with the economy and the government's pandemic response, many are demanding Netanyahu step down. But what we're seeing isn't just a movement that started in recent weeks. Anti-Netanyahu protests have been taking place since last November following the Prime Minister's indictment on charges of bribery, fraud, and breach of trust. Pioneers of the movement began blocking traffic and camping out near the Prime Minister's residence in Jerusalem, calling for the resignation of a leader undergoing criminal proceedings.
Tonight, I am resigning my office. It is unheard of. It is unthinkable that the Prime Minister will continue in office while being indicted for such grave breaches of law. He will stand trial. He will probably also go to jail. He cannot manage a country as difficult to manage as the State of Israel.
It wasn't until the outbreak of the coronavirus that the movements really picked up. In March, a caravan of protesters attempted to drive into Jerusalem, demonstrating against the assault on democracy, after the government passed a series of anti-democratic measures to fight the pandemic. This was the beginning of the so-called Black Flag movement. Residents also began hanging black flags from their home as a show of solidarity during the lockdown. 1 month later, 2,000 Israelis gathered in Rabin Square to decry the assault on democracy. Protesters began showing up more and more, and soon the demonstrations took an economic turn, with many furious over the faltering economy in the wake of the pandemic. The so-called Bibi generation of young Israelis began to turn on their leader and take to the streets, changing the face of the movement from a few older Israeli leftists to large crowds of young Israelis from the center and even the right wing.
Fighting for the future. Really, we want a different future, a future that we can live equally together without hate. And I think this is the reason you don't hear just one voice here, so many voices, because we said enough.
With no protest leader, the movement has been able to draw a diverse audience. Demonstrations have been exacerbated by police brutality and attacks on protesters by pro-Netanyahu groups. Netanyahu dismisses the demonstrators as anarchists and accuses the media of fueling them to trample democracy. As the protests don't seem likely to stop anytime soon, the question now seems to be, will they affect any real change?